Take a trip with us to Nilbog. Just promise not to drink the goo.
Oh my God!
If you get sucked into the Matrix, we will send a phone for you.
Do you believe in fate?
But every movie has a plot hole, and every hole gets filled somehow. Whiskey, wine, or blue milk. Just don't cut me off right now. We're the Plotaholics, a breakfast club of two. We're the Plotaholics, ripping plots apart for you.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Hey, everybody, welcome into another brand new, as of today, but old as of when you're probably listening to it, episode of the Plotaholics podcast. I'm Shane Wilson, and I'm joined, as always, by the Kelly Rowland to my Michelle Williams, Bryan Tan.
I'm all for that.
Bryan, welcome in. This week we watched Destiny's Child, the movie.
You know what? I'm glad that you said Michelle Williams, because she was actually my favorite member of Destiny's Child.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I liked her a lot better because she wasn't like thrown in the forefront as much. So
yeah, she didn't even really feature Kelly Rowland at least did some sort of feature work after the great breakup, you know?
Yeah. And she got killed in a horror movie.
Well, what a roller coaster of a sentence, honestly. If you did not know the fate of Kelly Rowland, you were just like, and she got killed in a horror movie. And I was just like, whoa, whiplash.
Dude, I'm sorry. I'm feeling like 8 different levels of funny today because I binge watched all of the new Resident Evil series on Friday.
You've been having a little bit of whiplash yourself, I think.
I have. And then I started watching the show Farzar on Netflix. That is so weird.
Yeah.
It is so weird. I was telling you.
And then somewhere over the course of that same time, you peppered in a little Dreamgirls.
I did, yes. Well, I've also watched Dreamgirls so many times that it's permanently burned into my cerebral cortex.
Yeah.
As well. Because this is probably one of my favorite musicals that's been put to film.
Yeah, that checks out.
I really, really love this film.
Have you ever seen the stage version?
I want to so bad. I don't really get to go check out stage productions, really, because, we do have a nice theater, everything here in Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. It's just that I don't really go to a lot of it because, and I'm not trying to talk trash on it by any means, but a lot of
it's just not your scene.
It's really not. Plus, I'd like to take a day trip to like New York City and watch stuff on stage there, to be honest. But then we went to go see Thor: Love and Thunder.
Oh, okay. So you really have been kind of all over the place.
I have literally been all over the place. My brain is goo. Yeah.
I have consumed very little substantial pop culture over the last week. I watched Dreamgirls. And I watched the first 3 episodes of F-Boy Island.
Oh, wow. What's that on? What's F-Boy Island on?
F-Boy Island it's a reality TV show, a dating reality TV show, but it's written by comedians instead of like these really self-important people, right? And so do you know the comedian Nikki Glaser?
Yeah.
So she's she's the host of it. And so she basically just rips on these dudes the whole time.
That checks out.
Like one of them is like kicked out and she's like, all right, come on, I'm gonna help you get out of here. She's like helping him with his bags and he's like, can you get this one? And she's like, no, fuck, that thing has too much fucking creatine in it.
Dude, Nikki Glaser is hilarious.
Yeah,
dude.
She's a trip. So that show, like, sometimes you just got to have a little mindless TV thrown in there, but
that's on HBO Max. I'm not
whenever they get booted, they send them to this place called Limbro.
Where
they try to like rehabilitate them.
Oh my god! I've got to watch this.
Yeah, but it's so funny because you need to start in season 1 because there's like some storyline carryover, which is so weird for like that kind of show too.
She was on your show AP Bio too.
Yeah, she's a trip. I love her. She's so funny.
All right, I'm gonna have to check that out. I was going crazy on HBO Max about a week and a half ago because I was watching that show on Warrior.
Mm,
And if you haven't watched Warrior,
I have not.
you really should. You like martial arts movies and
Yeah.
stuff, right? This show is actually a treatment from Bruce Lee. This was originally what Kung Fu was supposed to be.
Ah, okay.
And Justin Lin got permission from Shannon Lee to write a treatment for it. And it was on Cinemax. It was like one of the last original series on Cinemax.
Okay.
And then it moved over to HBO Plus, and they're going to be starting to film season 3
Nice.
in the next couple weeks. It is really, really good.
Yeah, and then otherwise, we've just been watching the new season of Solar Opposites.
Solar Opposites.
Yeah, that's like from the other guy that does Rick and Morty. You know, it's like Dan Harmon and that Justin Roiland guy.
Oh, okay. That animated one that's on Hulu.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to check that out too.
They're pretty funny.
Well, I've got the kid here, so I think that'll be something else he'll enjoy.
Yeah, for sure. That show is pretty funny. Like, it's super meta in all of the ways that like Community is. You know, like the one alien is like, why isn't anyone listening to me? I'm so clearly the main character of this show.
Okay, I have to check that out. We've been looking for something new to start binging because Sharon and I recently finished binging all the Netflix Marvel series.
Gotcha. Well, 3 seasons of Solar Opposites on Hulu. It's not bad.
All right, cool.
And a Christmas special. So
hey, I'm always on board for a Christmas special.
I like any holiday themed episodes of anything because they always seem a little bit off. Like the Office episodes that are based around Christmas are like my favorite ones because they're all just like so dialed up.
Oh, the kid made a special request to start binging The Office, so
nice.
We watched the first 2 episodes.
Diversity Day is such a rugged episode, dude.
It really is. Like Bryan, he's watching, he's like,
right.
He needs hit. Like at first he's like, he is the worst boss of all time. I want to work for him.
Yeah, dude, that Diversity Day, it reminded me that the fact that Diversity Day is the second episode of The Office reminds me of how Chappelle pulled off the black white supremacist in the pilot of the Chappelle show. It's just like just out of the gate. It's like, here's what you're gonna get.
Yeah,
like,
this is what you're getting.
And honestly, like The Office takes several seasons to get back to that level of cringe again.
Right.
Like it never really goes back. Like it's like that episode, Scott's Tots, and maybe like the dinner party episode are the ones that are like that sort of live in that level of discomfort.
Right. And what's weird, and I even told Bryan at one point, he was like, this is making me feel a little uncomfortable. And I said, yeah, that's what this humor does. That's The Office.
The cringe comedy.
Yeah, and I mean, cringe comedy is
Are you
tough.
watching the Superfan episodes or the
I think we're watching the regular cuts right now. I do want to start getting into the Superfan stuff.
Yeah, the Superfan cuts are wild. Like there's so many. The other day I was watching one where there was this joke where I was just like, oh my God, like what? So like it's you remember when they were like doing the weight loss competition with the other branches?
Yes.
So and they're all around the table and like Holly makes some joke. It's like a name that's like based on a pun or something. She's like, oh, well, have you met my friend, Mr. Blah, 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 whatever it is, right? Mm-hmm. And Michael's like, no, but have you met my friend, Mr. Titty Twister? And I was like, what? That's not even a joke, bro. Like, that's like...
What is happening?
I know. I just was like, what? Yo, like, I mean, sometimes it's like clear why things got cut, you know, but... I'll also say that in the Superfan cuts of the first season, especially, Jim comes across as more of a douchebag.
Jim is really he kind of is, yeah.
He's a little problematic at times, but in the Superfan cuts of the first few episodes, he's way like I'm like, yo, I don't know that people would have pulled for this guy in the same way if they had seen all of this originally.
Yeah, we didn't see Jim as being as much of a POS until like him and Pam are already married. She's already stuck.
Well, that's the thing, right? Is like when he went off and did his Philly thing, and left her with the kid and everything. Like that was kind of a dick move out of him. And also, I think that Jim benefited from us not necessarily being able to binge watch it at first.
Yeah.
Like when it was on TV and you had to watch it week to week, like you didn't get like this large sample of him being a terrible person to Dwight.
Right. He
In the
really
same way.
is.
Yeah.
He really is. Like, yeah, Dwight is a POS for sure. But I mean, Jim antagonizes him on purpose. He does about make a very, very hostile work environment.
Yeah, Jim's a little bit of a bully, but you know, this is not the Office podcast.
No, it's not.
There
but
are
I will
plenty of other places you can go to for that.
I will say this though: if any of my coworkers were to put my stapler in Jell-O, I'm going to HR like immediately. I'm going to see Toby.
They would have to put you in custody.
Hey-o!
That's what they get in. That's another one of my favorite bits on there is when they like a couple of people will rattle off a good joke, right? Like they make that like custody joke, and then like somebody else is like, oh, you know, and I was your biggest flan, and then like Michael's trying to come up with a joke that's like in the same vein as that, and he's just like silent for like 30 seconds, and then he goes, pudding. I'm trying to come up with something. Like it's so uncomfortable, man. But like in the first episode, whenever Ryan comes in for the first time, and he goes, I've just been revisiting the first season as well. And he comes in and he goes, we have a lot of fun around here like this. And then he does a Hitler impression. And
that's just like, whoa.
And he turns around and like Ryan's not laughing, of course. And he goes, I'm Hitler. We get it, bro. Like
we got the joke. We just don't want the joke. The first season of The Office really just hits the ground running. But as you said, as you transitioned us, there are tons of other Office. I
could talk The Office all day, but we're here to talk about.
We're here to talk Dreamgirls, the 2006 musical drama that has some comedic aspects of it as well. That is sort of a fictionalized storytelling of the growth of Motown. That apparently Berry Gordy wasn't that big of a fan of this. I remember hearing a story that Berry Gordy wasn't really that happy with this.
You know, the stage musical was a little more fictionalized, and they took this opportunity to like bring it back to center a little bit. And like this was at the urging of DreamWorks, like writers or producers or whatever, that they thought that maybe drawing more from the real life story of Motown and the Supremes would ground it a little bit more. Originally, it wasn't even set in Detroit; it was set in Chicago. The stage musical is set in Chicago. Couple of little things like that, you know. But I mean, I appreciated the move to Detroit and the bringing it closer to Motown. They were able to ground it in more like socio-political sort of like the things that we were like missing a little bit.
From the stage play, you mean?
No, not even that. Just like from a couple of weeks ago when I was like, what was it? Oh, in 8 Mile, some of the things that I was looking for out of 8 Mile.
Oh, gotcha.
That weren't there. Like they hit on those things a little bit more here, I think. And there's that one scene that's really like powerful whenever like the riots are happening, and
we're black owned.
Right. And then you see it happening on the news, and when she like storms out of the studio, like it's happening outside, because a lot of the newsy stuff, like a lot of the political stuff that happens in the movie happens on television.
Right. They're in their own existence, their own bubble, while life continues to happen around them, and then they just sort of exist within it, which is what happens, right?
Yeah, I mean that's it. And at the same time, you have the Jamie Foxx character, Curtis, who is like their manager, and he's trying to navigate this cultural moment where like blackness is still very much sort of shunned in a lot of ways, but he's still trying to figure out how to bridge the gap from the like black R&B charts,
being niche black art,
and bridging them into pop acts, and getting them into like white clubs and things like that. And
we see a lot of the issues that were had where black radio stations had no power in payola, which was a huge thing way back when, and even black artists' music being stolen.
Oh my God! This is the thing that made me laugh so hard.
Dude, that was like the whitest bit of whitening up that could ever have whited.
I was like, they did this white kid so dirty. Like they didn't even let him play a good version of this song. Like
that is like the worst version of I got me a Cadillac.
I was like, yeah, they gave him the full Sheeran.
Dude, that's not even a Sheeran, dude. That's like something way worse. That's
Sheeran
like
does at least have a little swagger to him.
Dude, that was like Jeremy Jordan meets Snow meets freaking. Do you remember you remember way back? Well, this was probably well before your time. When Michael Bivins had his East Coast family, and he had all these different artists. Like he had Another Bad Creation, and he had Boys to Men. Those were his biggest acts, but he had all these other acts in between. So the whole video are his different acts that he had signed, doing little performances just to show you who they are.
Yeah.
And he had this one group literally called White Guys. And it was like the precursor of like Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, and 98 Degrees. But it was like...
Yeah, homie just gave up on naming this band.
Yeah,
they're like, well, we need a name. And he's like, fuck it. White Guys.
White Guys,
Shit.
yeah.
Like,
and it's 5 white guys, too. It was almost like he was making fun of New Kids on the Block or something. And then he had another white dude. His name was just Hayden. And he was just like, he was like this portly-ass dude. He had some vocals on him.
Yeah.
And he does this thing in the music video where he's singing a song and he does like the real cool jacket over his shoulder, like, Sky-ya-ya-ya's. But it was like, and we never seen Hayden again.
Well,
that is what this dude, that is what this guy here had with his little car with the girls in the back seat, and he's barely playing the guitar. Yeah. He's just strumming the same chord over and over. And it sounds nowhere near as good as the version.
No, but this is the moment that made me raffle. Like, I laughed out loud at this kid.
Oh, I laughed at him too.
Because, I mean, like, obviously, like, we're making this comment that we made when we talked about 8 Mile about, like, the white artists coming in and sort of taking the music from black artists and reappropriating it or whatever. And here it's not even
very inferior.
Right. Well, yeah, there's that. And here he doesn't even like this act doesn't even come in and like try to carve out a space for himself in R&B or whatever. He just like takes the song and makes it into that like sort of like barbershop pop music or that like diner pop, you know?
Yeah. That sort of safe.
Yeah.
No one
milkshake at the jukebox sort of after school special.
Yeah, kind of like in that movie Crybaby, where the ritzy guys had their little group.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it reminded me of, except he's playing guitar. And I definitely got to give a shout out to, this was probably one of Eddie Murphy's best roles.
I want to talk about Eddie Murphy. I have a lot to say about Eddie Murphy.
Okay.
Mostly that I have underestimated him. Did he sing in this?
Yes, he did. That was him.
See, this is what kind of blew my mind apart. Like, so I always like Eddie Murphy, but he never really did a ton for me because I was too young at peak Eddie Murphy, like to really appreciate his stand-up and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, you weren't even around for peak Eddie Murphy stand-up.
Well, that's the thing, right? Is like I missed him on SNL, I missed his stand-up stuff, and then even when I was coming up and he was making like the family movies, like Nutty Professor and stuff, my parents, who were like very conservative, remembered.
They're like, no, Eddie Murphy was the FU man. No,
yeah, they remembered peak Eddie Murphy, and so like I wasn't exposed to like those movies because they weren't sure which Eddie Murphy they were gonna get or whatever.
Right.
And so like I was slow to come around to Eddie Murphy, and then but here he's so good.
He really is
so good in this movie.
And his character,
I think he's the MVP, man.
He absolutely is. I was actually going to say Eddie Murphy is easily the MVP. As great as Jennifer Hudson is, Eddie Murphy, the movie feels different when Eddie Murphy isn't on screen.
He has so much charisma in this role, especially early on.
Oh, yeah, when he was the top act. Oh, my God, yes. And then you just feel bad for him when he starts to get regulated off to the side.
Yeah, he gets Jackson Mained.
Oh, horribly. He definitely gets the Jackson Maine. You know what? Instead of singing, you're just gonna play guitar.
Yeah.
That's just all. You're not allowed to do anything else.
He's like, oh, you think you can tell me what to do? Well, watch me take my pants off.
Yeah. Jimmy got soul. Jimmy got soul. I love that Eddie Murphy started rap music in this universe.
It's like the Black Dewey Cox.
Back off, Jimmy Early. You don't want any of this shit. Oh, come on now, baby. Jimmy want this shit.
Yeah, Jimmy wanted it real bad and got hooked on it.
Mm-hmm. Dude, Jimmy wanted it all. Jimmy was hooked on so many things. I think all the things were like, all right, Jimmy, you got to slow down, man. You got to give one of us more love than others.
I made such a stupid joke while we were watching this. We were watching this last night, and like Michelle was talking about, she's like, wow, he's like kind of a freak, because he was like talking about like all the girls in the crowd and everything, and like how he was like going to take them to the bathroom and all of this stuff. And I was like, yeah, not a lot of people know this, but Jimmy Early is why we call condoms Jimmy hats.
Accurate.
And she goes, really? And I'm like, no, definitely not. Like,
no, Jimmy Early's not even a real guy.
Right.
Come on, got her.
Right. Oh man, but
that's a joke that Sharon would fall for easily.
Right. Yeah, you just have to say that shit like with confidence, you know.
Absolutely. But I mean, but you figure he was married to, in this movie, he's married to Dawn Lewis, who was, and we saw her previously, and I'm Gonna Get You Sucker. Mm-hmm. And she was also most famous for her role in A Different World. So he's married to Dawn Lewis, who is good Lord. But then he's cheating on her with one of the supreme children.
Yeah.
And he's like, dude, how are you juggling these? I mean, now granted, Supreme Dream Girl knew all about the wife, and she was just like, hey man, whatever. I mean, I think it just started to wear on her after a while, but I mean, wow.
Well, the relationship between the Dream Girl and the
Destiny's Dream Girl's child.
Destiny's Dream Child.
Destiny's Supreme Child.
And Jimmy.
She's like the most childish of all of them too.
Yeah, we're talking. That's Laurel, right?
Laurel, yeah.
Yeah.
She's
so
like
their relationship is interesting because like once Jimmy's not at the top of the ticket anymore,
she's not feeling it.
Yeah, she's not feeling it, and so it's like she's like a little bit of an opportunist, right? Like she's.
I think that she's like one part very, very like starstruck
and naive and all of that, right? Yeah. Like I don't think that it was like initially. No, I don't think that it was manipulative or like a power play or anything like that. I think that she was just like totally enamored with the guy's whole like vibe, you know?
Right.
And the fact that this dude at the top of the ticket was showing her any attention at all, even though this guy at the top of the ticket was still only at the top of the ticket of like the minor league club circuit, you know?
Right. But it shows what a big deal the indies have always been, you know? And shout out to Anika Noni Rose, who is also, she voiced the first Black Disney princess, Tiana. And she's amazing in this film. She
in fact, getting the guy that played Tiny, he was the voice as well of
Tiny Joe Dixon.
Tiny Joe Dixon. Yeah, I think Tiny Joe Dixon was the voice of I think he was a voice in that movie too.
I think he was. I have to look him up. He's not on the yeah, let's see. I believe he is, because this dude has done a lot of stuff.
Yeah, Michael Leon Woolley.
Yeah, he's done a lot of stuff too. Oh my goodness.
He is, but you know what he didn't do? Play that guitar.
No, he did not play that guitar.
He didn't even almost play that guitar.
No.
This dude is like a classically trained pianist. Like, why would you not just like either get somebody that plays the guitar or let him play the piano?
Right. He played Louis in Princess and the Frog.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what though, man, they made him look like a monster. Like they made him look bigger than life should ever be.
But I also I was like, look, you had this guy in the movie for like 90 seconds. His only job was to play the guitar. Why didn't you get somebody like, have you ever seen that Kingfish guy? He's this young kid. Well, he's older now, obviously, but when I first saw him, he's a young guy out of, I think, New Orleans or Mississippi, somewhere down there, and he just shreds the fuck out of the guitar. Like, get somebody that really plays the shit out of it and like showcase them. You know what I mean?
I agree 100%.
Because we never even saw this dude's fingers on the neck of that thing. Like,
no. We just see him like walking down the freaking. We just see him walking down the steps, like,
and then he just like wiggles. But you can tell with how high the note that he's playing on the guitar and how low his fingers are on the fretboard. That dude ain't playing the guitar.
There's no way in hell. There's no way in hell.
Maybe I'm absolutely wrong, but I don't think.
Well, you're the guitar player here.
I mean, I like
technically I am too.
I like to think that I can look at it and tell. And I'm always skeptical during a musician scene when they refuse to show us the person actually playing.
Right.
It's a bunch of like wiggling and like all of this stuff, you know.
Wiggle.
And it's a lot of like from behind shots, and like it's a lot of sneaky camera work, right?
Yeah, you gotta love how they just sort of slip that in there like that.
But you know, I thought, well, let's talk about the Beyonce of it all.
If we must. And I don't even say that to be rude. Here's the thing. I don't dislike Beyonce. I don't. It's just that she isn't my favorite.
Yeah.
I understand why she gets so many of the accolades. Because I think that for women, especially young women that are looking to become entrepreneurs and that are taking their own destiny, yeah. I think that she does sort of, because, you know, she's someone who, she was a standout, and whether you think that she's a great singer compared to others or not, she's talented.
Yeah, for sure. She's talented. And she has the all-important it factor.
Yeah, she combines the talent with the attitude and she's never compromised herself. Right. So I understand why she gets the accolades that she does. I'm just not the hugest of fans of hers.
I'm like hot and cold with her. Like sometimes I'm like, yo, this is a real bop. Right, like some of her music is so good.
Some of it can be very, very good. I love that song. Was it To the Left?
Right, and I mean, I think Single Ladies is an absolute banger. Right?
Hey, I was doing this.
Yeah, for sure.
I was wishing I could put on that leotard.
Yeah, that song goes hard for sure.
Oh, it definitely does. That is a good tune. And I love her empowerment. I love that she is empowered, and I love the fact that Jay-Z knows he better watch.
Yes.
Because if she says she's done, he's screwed.
And I thought that Jamie Foxx did a really great job playing Jay-Z in this movie.
A handsomer version, but yes.
Right, yes, a handsomer version. I swear the whole time I was watching this, I was like, I really am just watching like historical fiction of like if Destiny's Child was around in like the 50s, 60s.
Well, I mean,
but at the same time, the Supremes are that, right? And it just it goes to show that, like, as we've said week after week, as we've covered these films that explore like the rise and fall of these musical acts, it's a tale as old as the industry.
Right.
You burn
repeat itself.
Right. You burn fast, you burn bright, and then you burn out. And like every success story in the music industry is just a heartbeat away from being a disaster.
Right. Well, not to mention the fact that you get these groups that come out, but the biggest problem that these groups have is that you have a standout. And that standout will eventually leave. I mean, we've seen it with Destiny's Child, we've seen it with the Supremes, we've seen it with the Jacksons. I mean, we saw it with New Edition. Bobby Brown was probably the most famous. He wasn't the best. He wasn't the most talented.
Yeah.
But he had the most fame, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you're gonna keep the standouts around, then you have to give them perks, like they had to give the Green Ranger that gold shield.
Yeah. And then he got to be the White Ranger because supremacy.
Right. At least he never got to say white power, right?
Thank God.
He's like, he's like white power ranger.
Yeah.
They're like, you're putting a weird emphasis on that, Tommy.
Yeah, Tommy, you might want to settle
What?
down.
You know what I'm about? I'm about white power ranger.
Rangers. You're starting to look a lot like Ed Norton, pal.
Right.
You might want to tone it back just a little, Mr. Vineyard.
I mean, I liked being Green Ranger, but the white Ranger, white's my favorite color, and I think that it's more powerful and it is supreme in every way.
It is clean.
Right, it's clean. It's clean. Have you seen these lines?
Oh my God! But you definitely see now Jamie Foxx's Curtis Taylor character.
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk about a guy who is ruthless, ambitious, and intelligent. Like
Jay-Z. He really had a blueprint here.
He really did, yeah. And based off of they say he's based off of Berry Gordy.
Yeah.
And
well, and I don't think it would be a stretch to assume that Jay-Z's aspirations and everything are similar to those of like earlier entrepreneurs in that field. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
It's just a history repeating itself, right? Like when somebody is successful, you model your career after them.
Absolutely. I guarantee you that we're gonna in like 40 years. I'm gonna be too old to give a damn. But we're going to see another young upstart that's going to end up being worth more than Jay-Z and Dr. Dre combined.
Yeah.
We're going to see it.
Yeah, and then we're going to review a movie, and it'll be called Hova, and or just and it's called the Jay-Z story, and we will review that movie, and I'll be like, this is just like freaking, Dr. Pipsqueak over here, like whatever his name is, and you're like, yeah, but Pip has changed the game because like, and I'm like, yeah, but Pip followed the blueprint put out by Jay-Z.
Who followed the blueprint put down by Berry Gordy and blah, blah, blah. And so
there's a real quick teaser for you guys for episode 3072 of the Plotaholics podcast.
That's awesome. Oh man, I could just see us like if this were a TV show, be like a fast forward in time. Yeah. Like your beard is all long, like ZZ Top with a little hint of red to it.
Yeah.
And I just like somehow I got like bad hair plug implants, so my fro is just
and we're like so old that we can't even remember what we watched that week.
Yeah, and like the only reason why people are showing up is just to hear like the
they just hope that. They just kind of hope that we're gonna like one of us will die one day, like on the air. Like they're like it's gonna happen this week. There's like gonna be betting pools.
My kid is just gonna be sitting there. You know what? Once they're both gone, I can take this shit over.
Right? He's like, finally, I'll make it successful because I'm gonna follow the producer Pipsqueak model.
Your Pipsqueak, and that's how I'll be talking.
Right. People are like, it's just a bunch of mush mouth. It's like they fill their mouths with mashed potatoes and then hit record. It's like,
I'm like, hey, all these head injuries are finally catching up to me. Leave me alone.
Right. But yeah, I don't have any issue specifically with Beyonce.
No, there's no issue with her as a person.
I think she's talented. I think blah 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 blah. Right, but I feel like she's not any. I feel like she's no better than a lot of other artists doing similar things.
Yeah, and there's some artists that should probably be.
I do think that I think that like if you go based on talent only, I do think that she's done really interesting outside of the box sort of things with like her visual music that she's like her. Like album length music video stuff that she's done with Lemonade and those sorts of things are really interesting and interesting artistic choices. So like there are things that she does that I appreciate, even if it's not art that's necessarily for me.
Right. She's very good at what she does. She's a visionary.
Yeah.
I think Beyonce, and tell me what you think about this.
Yeah.
I think that Beyonce sort of saw a lot of what Prince, Michael Jackson, and Tina Marie were doing and have kind of molded her own thing based off, like no one cared, like people used to make it such a big deal how eccentric Michael was, right? How off the wall, no pun intended, Prince was. And of course, everyone just saw some of the stuff that Tina Marie was doing. They're like, man, she's just bad.
Yeah.
And Beyonce just sort of, in that vein, she's just going to do her own.
The thing that I really appreciate about her and Jay-Z is how little you hear about them. I know that there was that elevator thing a few years back, but in the grand scheme of things, like you hear very little about these two people.
Right.
As for them to be the big deal that they are, right? Like, and that is part of the mystique, and that's part of the driving force behind their popularity and her popularity, especially because if you hear something from Beyonce, it's new music or it's a new thing.
Right.
She's not just in the news, you know what I mean? Or she's like popping up at the Super Bowl. And honestly, this chick crushes the Super Bowl. I wish they'd let her dance at it and sing at it every year.
Seriously, that would definitely like save us a lot of the BS that we've been getting. I mean, you like the Weeknd's Super Bowl thing.
It was okay.
I was kind of like, man, okay.
It was
I don't
fine.
even know who this dude is.
But honestly, man, like, do you remember the second time Beyonce headlined the Super Bowl halftime show? It was actually supposed to be Coldplay's show.
Yeah.
And her and Bruno Mars popped out there, and like everybody was like, I thought there was somebody else supposed to be here. Why is Coldplay playing backup? Like
because it was Bruno Mars and
because
Beyonce.
Those two people, like those two, and Bruno Mars is in that same sort of upper echelon of performer as well. And also another guy that you never hear about, like outside of his music.
Right. And that's
carefully curated careers. And I appreciate that out of them. You know, like you give people less to talk about, like all they can do is appreciate you.
Absolutely.
And it makes it obvious who the haters are, right?
Right, exactly. The only thing that you put out there for people to talk about is your music.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you look at what's happening with Ricky Martin right now.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, it's like people have been waiting for him to fall.
Yeah.
Since he got big.
Yeah, and that's the thing. People are waiting for Beyonce to fall. Like there are people out there. There are people obviously that worship her. She's Queen Bee, right? But there are also a slew of people that would eat it up if something came out bad about her, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, because
I would be.
We're so disgusting as a
culture,
society, as a culture, that we love to put people up on pedestals just so we can knock them down like a 3-year-old throwing a temper tantrum.
Yeah. So Beyonce is good here, and I feel like it probably hurt her a lot in that scene where she had to say that other girl was a better vocalist. But then,
I'm sure she didn't want to say that because when you're.
But by the end, she was able to. Yeah, no, I mean, like
when you're at that level, you can't let yourself believe that someone's better than you. I mean, we saw Jared Leto doing that when he played Steve Prefontaine. He couldn't even let the kid beat him in a race.
Right.
Because he can't let losing enter into his mind. And I'm pretty sure when you're at that level, you can't let it into your mind that someone might be better than you.
Now, let me ask you this. When they were casting this, they had thought about casting relative unknowns in the 3 roles of the Dreamgirls, and then Beyonce lobbied for that role. Beyonce coming on as Dina is largely what landed Jamie Foxx, because Jamie Foxx wasn't like going to play ball with the salary that they were offering, and they couldn't meet what he was asking for. So Beyonce coming in largely led to Jamie Foxx coming in.
And I think Jamie Foxx being in on this role really, 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 I think Jamie Foxx, Beyonce, well, you have Jamie Foxx, Beyonce, Jennifer Hudson, and Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
That makes your movie right there.
For sure it does. And I wonder, how do you feel about the idea of having a relative unknown in that part of Dina if it means losing Foxx?
You would have to have another relative unknown.
And you see the people that were up for that part whenever they couldn't get Foxx to sign on for it, right? Who? It's people like Will Smith.
Nope.
Denzel Washington, Terrence Howard.
Terrence Howard. Was Empire a thing yet? I don't recall.
Not in 2006.
No, Empire wasn't a thing yet. So I think that if Terrence Howard would have done it, maybe. But this was also pre-Iron Man. So I don't think people would have taken him as seriously because he was still sort of second.
He's a relative unknown, right?
True. I think Terrence Howard could have made it work.
Yeah. I mean, there's not as much demanding vocal work out of that character as some of the others.
No,
But I don't think Will Smith would have been fit for that.
no. Will Smith would have sang rap like he did in Aladdin.
Yeah.
And plus, Will Smith back at this time, I mean, he was still, funny. He wasn't. I mean, he had his few dramatic things, but
I think
we
that
weren't
Will
respecting
Smith.
him on that.
I think Will Smith could have absolutely played that part if he didn't have to sing.
Yeah, I
Because this
agree.
is post Ali, and that was Will
True.
Smith's big like Oscar moment, right?
That was his big thing. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I just kind of feel like, but we did kind of chuckle a bit of Will Smith as Ali because some of his cadence sound. Even when I watch Ali to this day, his cadence as Ali sounds a little bit weird.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure of like the order of like his filmography, like where this, because I think that for a lot of people, The Pursuit of Happiness is the movie that sort of shored him up as a serious actor.
For me, it was. That and 7 Pounds.
Yeah,
Pursuit of Happiness and 7 Pounds did it for me.
yeah. But yeah, I agree. I don't want Will Smith in this. I think Jamie Foxx is perfect. I'm glad that they were able to find a way to get him in here.
But I think that if you still have Jennifer Hudson as Effie, that
you'll be okay.
You'll be okay.
Yeah. And Eddie Murphy too, right? Like if you have
those two, you're still gonna be okay.
Because for the Beyonce part, you can find another like traditionally pretty girl that can sing okay.
Right.
Because Beyonce doesn't get to show the pipes really in this movie. Not like she probably would have wanted to. You know what I mean?
Right. No, you're absolutely right.
Because she's supposed to be the marketable one that's pretty, but like not necessarily the best vocalist, right?
Right. And that's exactly what it was.
Anybody could have. It's interesting to me that Beyonce lobbied for that role, right? And not for the Jennifer Hudson role.
Well, because I also think that, I think that honestly, Beyonce knows that Jennifer Hudson, her vocal range is just other godly level.
Yeah. So like the other thing is that there were two sort of like front runners for the Jennifer Hudson role. It was her, and then it was Fantasia Barrino, the other American Idol chick, and that wouldn't have worked.
Not at all.
I never liked Fantasia as like I liked Jennifer Hudson.
I loved Jennifer Hudson from the first time I heard her voice.
Yeah.
And there's just something about her that you just love her.
Yeah.
Kind of like when you first saw and heard Whitney Houston. You fell in love with her. Yeah. It was like that with Jennifer Hudson. And Jennifer Hudson, I mean, here we are 16 years later, and she's just only become better and better and better.
She's a powerhouse. Like you can't, like, whether or not you're an R&B fan and whether or not like that style is for you, like is like your cup of tea. Like her vocal range and her power is just unrivaled, man. Like if
you can't appreciate the power of that voice, you're a hater. You just are.
She's wild.
And I gotta give a quick shout out, Yvette Nicole Brown showing up yet again in something.
She's everywhere, dude.
Dude, Shirley just shows up out of left field in every movie now.
She is everywhere. Also, like just to like run down the people that were considered for the CC White role.
Okay,
it was interesting. So Usher was originally considered in that role, and
I could have seen Usher.
I could have seen it too, but the negotiations failed because he didn't have enough time to dedicate, like enough solid blocks of time to dedicate to the project. Right. Andre 3000 was offered the role and turned it down.
Andre 3000 could have done it because he's a musical genius.
Dude, I love that dude, and I feel like I need more of him in everything.
We need more Andre 3000 in everything. That's what I'm saying, man. We got to do Four Brothers.
Yeah, I need more Andre 3000 for sure.
Dude, I want more Andre 3000 in everything.
Yeah, then they briefly considered Omarion.
I don't know who that is.
Just an R&B singer, and then obviously settled eventually on Keith Robinson.
Settled? That sounds so... And they decide we can't get these guys, so I guess we'll get this Robinson guy.
Yeah, right. And who does a great job.
Yeah, he does. He's based off of Smokey Robinson in this, and he's. You know what? I feel really, really bad for him because he's really caught in the middle when the whole split between
Right.
Effie and Curtis in The Dreams happens. Because that's Effie's kid brother. He loves his sister, but he sees her as being, she's very temperamental. She's a diva. And she wants her way, and she's going to demand her way. So it's like, it's hard to be loyal to your sibling when you know they're being an asshole.
Yeah.
Especially when you have the chance to do something.
Yeah. Like the whole movie sort of pivots on this one scene where they get Jimmy playing in a white dinner club in Miami.
And during his
performance, dude, that was so fucking funny too. Like,
and he's looking at the white woman, like
pointing at that woman so aggressively, dude. Like,
you.
Right. I'm just like, yo.
Whoa, pump those brakes there, Pavarotti.
Right. Like,
bro,
I was like, you're not playing back in Detroit right now, dude.
Yeah, you're making me a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah,
sir.
but like, not only that, he was going harder there than he ever went in any of those other clubs.
Yeah,
and that was kind of his downfall always. Like, he tried to overcompensate for like a vacuum of energy, right? Like, he fed off of the crowd, but if the crowd wasn't giving him what he needed, he decided that he would need to dial it up to like fill the void. To try to bring them with him, right?
And that's kind of a thing that, you know what, I think that when I was performing, that was probably my biggest downfall, is that if people weren't into it, I felt like I had to get into it more to get them into it. And they're just like, dude.
Yeah, it starts to feel a little weird when you meet their energy with such drastically different energy. It feels weird. I always just tried to meet the energy of the crowd I was playing for, which is easy when you play like acoustic music and people are like just kind of kicking it, you know?
Yeah, they're kind of doing the
right.
Yeah,
it would be different if I was the front man of like a rock and roll outfit and people, you know what I mean? Like my music kind of like lends itself to people being disinterested.
Yeah, you gotta be Chris Cole singing "Colorful" in a Seattle coffee house.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Coming out as Izzy and Still Dragon isn't gonna fit.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, you get it.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of. Let's talk a little bit about the Danny Glover Eddie Murphy dynamic for a minute, because when we first meet Jimmy early, Danny Glover's character Marty is his manager. He's taking care of everything for him. And then you see how Jamie Foxx's Curtis character slowly puts that rift between them.
Yeah, I mean, Jamie Foxx is so good in this role, but he is a villain.
He is a monster,
for
sure.
Anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, but I really enjoy the father-son dynamic between the two of them.
Yeah.
And you get that so much with everything Danny Glover does. Like every movie Danny Glover is in. Even when Danny Glover, I don't even think Danny Glover was ever a child. I think he just came out of the womb perpetually 55 years old.
Yeah, well, it's the Glover nesting doll, right? You had Danny Glover, and then whenever Danny Glover reached the age of 45, he popped open, and Donald Glover came out of it.
Yeah, pretty much. I would love to see a buddy cop movie with Donald Glover, with Danny Glover as his father.
Yeah, but only if Donald Glover writes and directs it.
Absolutely.
Because that dude is a lunatic, and like it would be so weird.
Dude, his "This Is America" video is still like, it still gets me.
Yeah, well, and Atlanta is so good, and it's something like I kind of forget that it exists, and I haven't finished it, but God, that show is so good.
But I really think that the Danny Glover's character is also very integral to the plot, even when he's not there, because you start to see where Jimmy is this fish out of water. And then you realize that, yeah, he might have had the talent, but if he didn't have that direction from Marty, there's no way he would have been as good as he was.
Yeah.
So, but it shows that Curtis was really good at feeding.
Yeah, every Jimmy Early, every Jackson Maine, like they all need a wrangler, right?
Right.
Like they need somebody that's like feet on the ground, rooted, steady, and they can also have a dreamer around them, right? That's okay, but they need somebody just like the Sam Elliott character, right? That keeps them like rooted to the earth.
Right. And we saw that's what Effie needed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, sure. Curtis was a great visionary, but he wasn't good at keeping people grounded.
Right.
What he did was he would feed your ego, and then once your ego started to take you out of his orbit, he would slam you back.
He
to
was
Earth.
a human Molotov cocktail. Like,
he really was.
He was incendiary, right? Like it was all fun and games, but like he's not afraid to like burn you down if you get bigger than he wants you to be, right?
Absolutely. You saw him do that a lot to Dina.
Yeah.
He did that to her a ton of times.
Right.
And was real gentle about it at first. And then it was just like, ooh, too much. That's mean, bro. That's mean.
That's mean.
That's mean. Dude, shout out too, man. We got the two Johns in this, John Lithgow and John Krasinski, man.
Yeah, we got a little John action.
Yeah. Oh my God, John Lithgow.
So this is sort of my last point that I would make about it. I found the film. So obviously, I knew it was a Broadway musical. Mm-hmm. And also obviously sometimes Broadway or stage musicals have a hard time making the translation to film.
Right.
I felt like this movie was at its best when the musical numbers were performed, staged musical numbers, like in the story. Mm-hmm. And I felt like whenever the musical numbers were performed as dialogue, like in that sort of basic, like traditional Broadway sense, right? Where the characters are singing at each other instead of talking to each other.
Right.
That stuff took me out of it a little bit. And it was only because so much of the early stuff was staged performance that it felt like that was the vibe we were going with, that all of the songs were going to be staged performances. And then whenever it did happen, I was like, what? Like, why is he singing at him in the parking lot? Like,
yeah. Hold on a second, Miss FLY. And I'm like,
right. And I'm like, wait, can't we? And I feel like that would have, I feel like I needed an early song in the film that wasn't staged to indicate to me that we were in that universe where things are saying like as dialogue, and that would have been fine because I don't have a problem with musicals at all, like with that, right. with even that version of delivery. But it wasn't. It was established that we were going to get these staged performances, like in that early scene, right? Like let's get like the staged performance happening, and then while they're getting ready backstage, let's get a little bit of that sung dialogue, right? Like while they're like trying to get themselves ready to establish that we've got music coming in from staged numbers as well as like dialogue stuff, right? Or story songs. And then I think I would have been on board with it. But otherwise, like there were just 2 or 3 moments that sort of like jarred me out of it a little bit whenever the singing would start. And you like, that was one of them that you just did. Mm-hmm. And then like the parking lot where Jamie Foxx is just like, oh, and I'm like, what's happening?
Why? What's going on here?
Right.
Did I miss something?
I'm like,
you seriously hit rewind. What the hell did I just miss?
Right. I'm like, why is that's a weird? It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off.
Yeah, and I think another part. I think at the very end when she goes and everyone's gonna win. I think that that could have been like standard conversation where, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Someone sort of boots you out of your musical group. They try to steal the song that's going to give you something. Of course you're going to sing at them just to
and obviously like, I'm not going, right? Like,
no.
Right. That
way.
Song is
Dude,
obviously
that song is awesome.
It is awesome. And obviously that's sung dialogue, but that makes sense because they're in a recording studio. She's leaving, like they're kicking her out.
Right.
And she's pissed and she's trying to show them what they're going to lose. So like that one makes sense.
Right.
In a way that some of the other ones didn't quite work out. And when I was reading about the movie, there was another version of it that was even longer that had even more musical performances in it because they wrote 4 or 5 original songs for the movie version that are not in the stage play. Mm-hmm. So it's pushed longer. They cut it back because test audiences didn't like the amount of music that was there. And so one of the choices that they made was cutting a song from the end whenever they're like letting her come on and sing her song. Like that, like come on stage and sing this song was another song. And that's just like, bro, like just tell her to come up here and do it. Like you don't have to sing a whole ass song about it.
Right, seriously.
But like what a Beyonce move, right? To like invite your friend to come sing a song, but then you're gonna sing a song about that.
About
like,
you bringing them on stage.
Like you
wow.
come back out on stage and you're like, hey everybody, I just invited my friend to come sing a song. But here's my song about inviting her to sing a song. And it's better than whatever song she's gonna sing.
Because I'm Beyonce.
Right, but still consider this a write-off on my taxes because it's charity.
Almost swallowed my gum. He said write off on taxes because it's charity. Oh my God.
And then she's like, hey y'all can catch my new single Charity. It's gonna be out everywhere on Monday. We're surprise releasing it on noon on Monday.
Never stop, not stopping.
All right. Never stop, never stopping. All right. Let's see. Anything else you'd like to say about the girls that dream?
Oh, God. Oh, man. I'll tell you what. My favorite song in this movie, besides... Oh, did you ever hear John Cho's version of that song that we were just... You're Gonna Love Me? You ever hear John Cho? So... If you ever watch Down to Earth with Chris Rock, where he's the comedian that dies, he's trying to get in at the Apollo, and all the Apollo singers are trying to sing this song, and they're all getting booed. Yeah. But John Cho is on there, and he plays this character, Phil Kwan, who refers to himself in the third person, and he's actually singing the song, and people are like cheering and going crazy. And there's actually a scene where he goes up to Chris Rock, and he goes, "Hey, Bowie, you're a very funny man." Phil Kwan says so.
I mean, like that song is very much in the realm of like, I Will Always Love You, in terms of like, this is the song that if you're a female vocalist, like this is the one that you prove yourself on, right?
Absolutely. This is absolutely it for sure. But my favorite song other than that is that Patience song. That song, Patience, Little Sister. That is a cool song, man. That song had Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy's like, come on, nah.
Yeah, I like that one too.
And of course, I get real mad when Curtis is like, yeah, I'm just not feeling that sound right now. And you just see Eddie Murphy, like, all that joy is just gone. He's like, well, time for the heroin.
Right, for sure.
Life sucks now. Time for more heroin. Everything will be better now. Like, Jesus, man.
Yeah, I mean the soundtrack is great. Like it just like there were moments that took me out of it a little bit. Out of it. Yeah, dude, but that was we even got Steve Urkel in this movie for like 5 minutes. I liked seeing Steve Urkel.
Yeah,
it was cool.
It's good to see.
It was cool
Steve
to catch
Urkel
up with Stefan, really.
Yeah, Stefan Urkel.
Yeah, that's right.
Dude, this movie literally had like almost every black person that ever black people. Damn near.
Yeah, it was they ran deep here.
Yeah. Shout out to Hinton Battle, who played Wayne in the film, but he was the original Curtis Taylor Jr. on stage. So shout out to him being in this movie.
Directed by and screenplay by Bill Condon, who 100% guaranteed was called Bill Condom when he was in middle school.
Oh, he absolutely was called Bill Condom.
Yeah, there's no margin of error here needed. It is a 100% guarantee that if this person knew another person when he was in middle school, that person called him Bill Condom.
Yep, that's why he was probably homeschooled.
Right.
But his siblings probably called him Condom.
Yep. The movie was made on a something between the $75 and $80 million budget, making it at the time the biggest budget film that DreamWorks had produced with an all-black cast. Or at least an all-black main cast. And then the box office, $155.4 million. It is currently sporting a firm, hard 79% on the tomato meter. certifying it fresh with an audience score just a little limper at 71. But it'll still get the job done, and if you get things started, then maybe it'll firm up a little more. But
yeah, it ain't the size of the numbers; it's the motion in the ocean that gets it.
That's right. That's right. Here's bartender Smiley with a rundown of how our rating process works.
The Plotaholics rating system for the movies is a pretty simple system. Basically, they rate movies based on how many shots it takes to get through them. So if you got a good movie and you get through it all the way sober, then it takes 0 shots to get through the movie. And then if you got a really bad movie, then it could take up to 5 shots to get through the whole thing. I think you can try to figure out the middle part yourself. So what can I get you?
Oh, Mr. Tan, would you like to take it away?
Yeah, sure. Dreamgirls is one of those musical films that you're going to have a good time watching it. It's based in just enough fact that you're going to feel like you're watching a straight up biopic.
Yeah, for sure. Like they do a good job casting all these people. They look similar, like the Jackson 5 moment, right? Like
the Campbell connection.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
1 and 1 makes 2, and
right.
7 and 9 are before 10.
Right. It's like the number song instead of ABC. It's like.
Oh my god! But this it's a great film. The performances in this film are so they're timeless. Mm-hmm. Like this is a movie that, number one, it should be in the Criterion Collection for sure. You can look back at this film in 20 years and it still holds up strong. Our leads are just amazing. This is probably one of Eddie Murphy's best films. It's probably one of my favorite films of this era of Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
A very, very close second to Mr. Church, only because he's part of an ensemble in this. So we don't get as much Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
At this level.
I would say that this is my favorite Eddie Murphy role, maybe that I've ever seen him in.
You know what? It's definitely top 5. It's easily top 5.
And I have seen fewer Eddie Murphy films than you have, but I mean, I would put this up at the top for me.
And it's easy to do that because I know a lot of people that have watched Eddie Murphy's career since the 80s would probably say that.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to find any flaws in this film that are actual flaws. It flows very, very well.
Did you watch the director's extended cut or the 2-hour, 10-minute version?
I watched the standard version. The 2-hour,
Gotcha.
10-minute version.
I couldn't find it. Well, I could. It was on Amazon, but I like to rent things on the tubes because I can get them in different places easier, you know. So so the only thing on the YouTube was the director's cut, which is 10 minutes longer.
Okay.
Which is going to be at the center of my critique, but
okay. See, I've never seen that version. I'm gonna have to watch that version because I own it on DVD. So with that being said, I have to give this a 0 shot. I can't. There's no flaws in this. I mean, the stuff. You laugh when you're supposed to laugh. You cry when you're supposed to cry. You groove to the music when you're supposed to groove to the music. Even John Lithgow's offensive-ass character, he worked with the movie because that was the times. I mean, the ignorance of John Lithgow, is he trying to get that Negro Cleopatra movie made? Bro, you do realize people in Egypt were black, right?
Right.
I'm just saying. So... But this film had a lot of good stuff, and I love it so much. It's definitely a Bryan Tan favorite.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it just a slightly worse rating, and probably only because I watched the longer version. So I give it a 1 shot. It felt a little bloated to me, like it was a little long, and that could just be the extra 10 minutes. I feel like you could probably cut 20 off of it. It should be like a firm 2 hours. I think we'd probably be fine. Some of the performances maybe felt a little longer to me than they needed to be. Especially when you have the benefit of film where you can do like montage stuff and you can like layer like musical performance with other story elements so that you can kind of keep things moving. We don't need to like stop the story for a full 5 minutes and get a whole set, you know?
Right.
I mean, it's good. The vocal performances are great, but that's what the soundtrack's for.
Right.
And yeah, no, they're all great here. Love the casting. Casting is spot on. I can't imagine anybody else in any of these roles doing a better job than anybody here. It's very good top to bottom. Obviously, Jennifer Hudson is killer here, and like you said, the vocal performances are just second to none. Obviously, like it's an important cultural moment for like the all black main cast and the story that it's telling, and that getting produced by a major studio, et cetera, right? Like all of it's very important. There were just, like I said, a couple of moments where the song sort of took me out of it, and then I felt like it was maybe just a smidge long is all, but overall thoroughly enjoyed it. Very good.
Word, hey, awesome. So next week,
I'm trying, Bryan, to get a little bit harsher with my critiques lately, and like I'm dialing it up slowly to see, just to try it on. You know what I mean? Because like there's very little to complain about here. You know,
okay.
Just like there was very little to complain about with 8 Mile. I think I gave it another 1 or something like that, right? Like,
yeah, you did.
So, but yeah, I absolutely don't quibble with your perfect rating, because I think that on another day I could have given both of these movies a 0 shot rating. You know?
Oh, I hear you. And no, and I appreciate the the criticalness. I do. I totally appreciate it.
Yeah. Next week, Mr. Tan.
Blinded by the light.
Yeah, I'm pretty pumped for this. I have not seen it.
Neither have I. Now, this is the 2019 film, correct?
Yes.
All right, yeah, with the lyrics of the Bruce Springsteen aspect of. You know what? We probably could have even done Yesterday. That would have been pretty awesome to throw.
I thought about Yesterday as well. Remember, we do still have that one like random week that we can fill in anything.
I think we should throw Yesterday in there.
Yeah, I think that I could get on board with that. But yeah, so next week we're doing Blinded by the Light.
Right up, I can do some kind of rooming in the light. That's
I'm a big Springsteen fan. Are you a Springsteen fan?
I appreciate Springsteen for what he does. Would I call myself a super fan? No.
Well, no. I mean, like, I don't think.
But
because
he is so important to music. He's very important to music, and Born to Run is probably one of my favorite songs.
Yeah, that's a good one. Let's see. I'm trying to get us a little slice of synopsis here, just so we can get our head around it, because it sounds really interesting.
See, from the writer, director, producer Gurinder Chadha, from Bend It Like Beckham, comes the drama Blinded by the Light, set to the music and lyrics of Bruce Springsteen's timeless songs, courtesy of Amazon Prime.
Let's see. So this courtesy of Kenneth Chisholm on IMDb.
Do better than me on that.
In 1987, Britain Javed Khan is a British-Pakistani college art student in Luton in a family with a domineering father. Depressed by his oppressive family life and feeling he has no future in a hostile community, a newfound friend introduces Javed to the music of Bruce Springsteen. Touched by the rock star's powerfully eloquent affinity of his own feelings, Javed is inspired to reach out for his own dreams with his own talents. However, although Javed finds friends he never expected in his personal quest, he also finds himself butting heads with his newly unemployed father, who stubbornly refuses to understand his son's new aspirations. So it'll be an interesting and a slightly different take on the Summer of Song, because here we have someone inspired by music as opposed to someone making music, right?
Right, but I mean, it's gonna. Matter of fact, I'm looking at right here on Prime. Honestly, $3 to rent, $10 to buy. I think I'm just gonna buy.
Yeah,
because it. I mean, I remember seeing the trailers for this back before
it looks
the world
good.
shut down.
Yeah, it's like right at a 7 out of 10 on IMDb. On the Tomatoes, it is. Let's see. It is sporting a real rock hard 88%. And a 91% audience score.
4.5 stars out of 5 on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I'm going to take the plunge, Shane.
All right, awesome. I'm looking forward to this one for sure, and that's what we'll get into next week as the Summer of Song continues. Right. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you or implore you once again to rate, review, subscribe, tell your friends and family. about the Plotaholics. You can tell them about other things too. They probably miss you.
Yeah, you guys can have conversations, but you have to bring up the Plotaholics.
Yeah, in one way or another, you know?
Or else I will blind you with my light.
Oh. What does that mean?
I will take off my shirt and grab my nipples really, really hard.
And then...
And go, ah!
That is like... That's like a contemporary reimagining of the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark if I've ever seen one.
I was about waiting for my face to melt.
Don't look right at it.
Just
I need somebody to deep fake and just put Bryan doing that with his nipples up where the Ark of the Covenant is, and then Andy is just like, "Don't look at it." Like fucking demons and shit are just like shooting out of your nipples, or like, that would be too good.
Oh, that'd be great. They're lactating out.
All right. Well,
wow.
With that,
I'm watching too much Netflix.
Yeah, Bryan needs to go and pump and dump, and we will see you folks next week.
Oh my god, it's just horrible.
Later.
Bye.
Take a trip with us to Nilbog. Just promise not to drink the goo.
Oh my god!
If you get sucked into the Matrix, we will send a phone for you.
Do you believe in fate?
But every movie has a plot hole, and every hole gets filled somehow. Whiskey, wine, or blue milk. Just don't cut me off right now. We're the Plotaholics, a breakfast club of two. We're the Plotaholics, ripping plots apart for you.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.